Breaking tonight, Ontario's premier pushes back against Donald Trump's tariff threat.
We'll use every tool in our toolbox, including cutting them off energy that we're sending down there.
A threat from this side of the border after Canada's premiers and the Prime Minister discussed the plan to deal with Trump's concerns. CBC News is in Damascus as Syrians start to rebuild after Assad.
We need to talk about it now.
Plus, we break down why what happens next will be felt far beyond Syria's borders. And for decades, he mystified audiences, young and old. Remembering the amazing Kreskin, entertainer, mentalist, and inspiration to those who follow.
From CBC News, this is The National with Chief Correspondent Adrian Arsenault.
Thank you for joining us. In the face of continued tariff threats from Donald Trump, Canada's leaders say they're united, and Ontario's premier says they need to be ready to fight. In a virtual meeting with the premiers, Justin Trudeau laid out his plan to address Trump's border concerns. It includes more boots on the ground, more drones in the air, and more work to trace fentanyl. But it was Doug Ford who delivered a pointed threat, saying this fight is coming and Canada needs to be ready to retaliate. Kate McKenna now on what that retaliation could look like and the growing efforts to put pressure back on the U.S.
The Prime Minister went into the call with Canada's premiers with a plan, and the premiers came out swinging.
We need to be ready. We need to be ready to fight. This fight is coming, 100%.
Sources say the Prime Minister laid out broad strokes of a new beefed-up border strategy.
We asked for more boots on the ground for our CBSA officers and our CMP officers, and they agreed.
And obviously a priority will be to share details of this plan with the incoming Trump administration and with Canadians in the coming days.
It's an all-hands-on-deck response to Donald Trump's threat to slap Canadian goods with a 25% tariff over concerns about the border.
The tariffs that they've proposed at 25% would be devastating to the Canadian economy.
Ottawa's already pledged more helicopters and drones. Provinces offered law enforcement resources, both aimed at stopping illegal crossings. And sources say Trudeau also discussed the fight against fentanyl, something Trump brought up repeatedly when the Prime Minister visited Mar-a-Lago. Justin Trudeau has also floated retaliatory tariffs.
We will, of course, as we did 8 years ago, respond to unfair tariffs.
Ford took that further, threatening to stop Ontario energy exports.
We will go to the full extent, depending on how far this goes. We will go to the extent of cutting off their energy.
Premiers have also been key to the diplomatic push to convince Trump to change his mind, meeting with American governors and appearing on American TV, saying tariffs will be bad for both countries.
It's hurting the American people. It's hurting the Canadian people. Why the president is doing this is beyond me.
Quebec Premier François Legault met Trump last weekend in France. He's now calling for a costed border plan, tighter visa rules, and to negotiate a new free trade agreement now and without Mexico. How much this will cost for now is unclear. Sources have said Ottawa is prepared to spend up to $1 billion on border security, spending that could be approved before Donald Trump even takes office. Kate McKenna, CBC News, Ottawa.
Let's go to Catherine Cullen now. So, Catherine, pretty strong words from Doug Ford. What are you hearing about how those words are landing in Ottawa?
You know, Adrian, it's a pretty dramatic turn from border policy, but the federal sources I've spoken to, they're not unhappy with what Doug Ford said. One source said he's not wrong to point out that the U.S. needs Canadian energy and that there's already been federal work done on what items could be part of a strategy to counter the tariffs. The Deputy Prime Minister spoke publicly tonight about some premiers suggesting critical minerals as a sensitive product that Canada could use to its advantage. There's a pretty big difference, though, between withholding lithium and withholding electricity. Also, just because Doug Ford suggested this, that doesn't mean it will happen, but it does speak to a growing sentiment amongst officials I talked to that Canada needs to be prepared in case Trump's threats go further. Make no mistake, though, this tone is starting to sound like an all-out trade war with our biggest trading partner.
And Catherine, Ford also, interestingly, challenged the Prime Minister for wading into U.S. politics.
Yeah, this is about an event last night focused on women in politics, where Justin Trudeau said that the U.S. failed for a second time to elect a woman president. Trudeau called himself a proud feminist. In response, Elon Musk posted online that Trudeau is, quote, such an insufferable tool who won't be in power for much longer. Ford said that came up during the Premier's call tonight, that Trudeau's remarks weren't helpful and that Trudeau got that message loud and clear. Adrian?
All right, Catherine Cullen in Ottawa for us tonight. Thanks, Catherine.
Thank you.
The Bank of Canada is calling Donald Trump's tariff threat a major new source of uncertainty as it cut its key interest rate again. But as Peter Armstrong tells us, the bank also signaled it could be the last big cut for a while.
The Bank of Canada is trying to thread a particularly slim needle. It wants to get rates lower, but it doesn't want markets to freak out. So once again, it cut 50 basis points, but it added this caveat.
With the policy rate now substantially lower, we anticipate a more gradual approach to monetary policy.
The question is, what does gradual really mean?
Well, we've just cut by 50 basis points at the last two meetings. So more gradual is more gradual than that.
Tiff Macklem's answer is deliberately vague because he sees what you see. Per capita GDP has fallen 6 straight quarters. The unemployment rate is rising. Economists say gradual doesn't mean the rate-cutting cycle has come to an end.
Canadians are going to see even more rate cuts ahead.
Canadians have been clobbered recently. Inflation drove up prices. A slowing economy is eating into economic confidence. So even if those 50 basis point cuts are behind us, economists say the Bank of Canada needs to bring down rates to help navigate the stormy months and years ahead.
RBC sees the Bank of Canada cutting rates down to 2% by the end of next year, believing that the economy is going to need more than just neutral, but a little extra support over that horizon.
That's welcome news to variable rate mortgage holders.
It probably dropped by about $250, $300 a month.
Roman Oshipkov saw his mortgage in Red Deer nearly double when rates took off. That extra money helps, but costs are up across the board.
Fuel costs are up. Costs to food for kids and formula and diapers and all that stuff is up.
And now the economy is facing new threats from incoming U.S. President Donald Trump and his proposed tariffs. And we still don't know what will be targeted, by how much, or how Canada may respond.
So it is not just a cloud of uncertainty, but a very pernicious fog over the entire visibility of the Canadian economy.
With more fog yet to come, the Bank of Canada is going to meet again on January 29th. Adrian, do the math. That's just 9 days after the new U.S. president sworn into office.
A new era. We need to talk about the Canadian dollar because the thinking had been that another cut would drive down the loonie, but that didn't happen.
It didn't. That word gradual that we talked about, that certainly mollified a lot of investors, and a lot of that had been priced in, and it just sort of gave them the sense that we wouldn't see any more of these really big supersized cuts. But make no mistake, the loonie is weak, and it still has a lot of risk that it'll slip below that 70-cent margin.
All right, Peter Armstrong, thank you.
You bet.
The new reality in Syria continues to take shape tonight. CBC News is on the ground as the rebellion consolidates its hold on the country. So these images from the tomb of deposed dictator Bashar al-Assad's father burning now as rebels take control of Syria's coast. And on the eastern edge of the country, rebels seized the city of Deir ez-Zor from Kurdish fighters allied to the U.S. In other words, the fight over Syria's future is not over. Our crew is the only team from Canada inside Syria tonight. Senior international correspondent Margaret Evans now with Syrians who, for now, are ready to celebrate and tell us they have hope.
The sunbeams finding their way through the roof of the Hamadiya souk to mingle with crowds below is a sure sign that Damascus is beginning to relax. A curfew has been lifted, stalls are no longer shuttered, and people have been asked by the country's new rebel leaders to go back to work. The souk is full of people wearing, waving, and selling the Syrian opposition flag, 3 stars, not 2, and soon to replace the old flag tied to the now toppled al-Assad dynasty. Oud maker Firas al-Salaka is all for it.
It was very difficult. Really, it was very difficult. We need to forget everything. We need new flag.
That's what the rebels are promising, a new Syria. The temporary Prime Minister, Mohammed al-Bashir, has been meeting with former regime ministers to begin a transfer of power. The main rebel leader, Islamist Abu Muhammad al-Jawlani, is orchestrating the change, bringing on trusted advisors from the opposition province he controls. It's one reason Mahmoud Sayed Hassan believes al-Jawlani will deliver on his promise to create a government for all. Idlib was very well organized, he says. Then they entered Aleppo and later Damascus. And this is what we hope for, a better country. Across the street from the souk, rebel soldiers are guarding the courthouse, one of the buildings sacked by looters after Bashar al-Assad fled the country on Sunday. Tarek Nunu worked as a driver for one of the judges. People are more free now, he says. Now we exchange money and we can speak about anything related to politics. We couldn't do that before. Back in the souk, Firas el-Salaka says Bashar al-Assad broke Syria.
But it's a problem if we want only to talk about what he does. We need to talk about now. Now we need to start.
It's not a perfect picture, far from it, especially with fighting between Turkish-backed opposition groups and Kurdish forces in the north. But a country that has endured so much deserves its chance to bask in the light. Margaret Evans, CBC News, Damascus.
New York police say they have new evidence linking Luigi Mangione to the murder of a health insurance executive on the streets of Manhattan. Investigators say they've now confirmed the gun recovered from Mangione during his arrest matches the shell casings that were found at the scene of the shooting. The suspect's fingerprints also match items recovered near the scene. Right now, Mangione is in police custody in Pennsylvania, where he was arrested. He is fighting extradition to New York, where he's been charged with murder. And we can tell you more tonight about an Ontario elementary school teacher accused of sex offenses against multiple students. Thomas Daigle now with new details about the charges she's facing and new reaction from the community.
On the first week of the school year, police showed up at the home of a grade 8 teacher now accused of sex crimes against multiple students. Barred from her workplace while she's on unpaid leave, Kellyanne Jennings is facing 20 charges.
I would say as a sexual assault investigator, it is rare.
On Wednesday, Jennings' lawyer appeared by video link as a court heard her case will play out well into the new year. A teacher at this Ontario Catholic school, the 40-year-old is accused of misconduct with at least 4 minors, and police suspect there may be more.
Sexual offenses of this nature involving a teacher, that's very concerning to every aspect of the community.
According to court records obtained by CBC News, Jennings is accused of sexually assaulting a boy under 14 in April, and weeks later she allegedly produced child pornography, purportedly involving pictures and video on a platform like Snapchat.
Police say Jennings broke her bail conditions twice in October by attending places like this where children are likely to be. She was then released on bail again, and this time she is allowed to come to locations like this as long as her own children and her surety are with her.
No one answered when we stopped by her home, and Jennings' lawyer declined to comment on the case. This smiling yearbook entry reads Mrs. Jennings' #1 rule is respect yourself and others. A parent of one former student told CBC News she was shocked and at first hoped it was all a terrible misunderstanding, calling such allegations damaging for any community. This expert says sex crimes by women often go unreported.
The question is it more underreported than sexual offending by men? We have no idea.
The allegations against Jennings have not been proven in court. Thomas Daigle, CBC News, Port Hope, Ontario.
Several types of MadeGood granola bars are being recalled over concerns they may contain metal fragments. The company that owns MadeGood is voluntarily recalling 12 varieties of the bars, including chocolate chip, and strawberry. All of the products were made between January and November of this year and sold in Canada, the U.S., and other countries. The company says it has fixed a manufacturing issue and that the bars can be returned for a refund wherever they were purchased. A small army of firefighters is in the area of Malibu, California tonight, battling a fierce wildfire that is just 7% contained. Much of the city remains under evacuation order, and as Aaron Collins shows us, the flames have already claimed some homes.
The fire that caused this destruction still growing. For now, few homes have burnt here, but entire neighborhoods and all the people and animals that live there at risk.
I must have had like 30 minutes to run around and try to get the horses, and we didn't know what we were going to do. Like, we could not leave them in the barn. Thank God we didn't leave them in the barn because the barn burnt down.
This fire moving fast, pushed through these tinder dry hills by the warm winds that draw people here. Some 20,000 residents urged to evacuate, chasing some away as the flames advance. Others choosing to stay behind to fight for their homes and for their neighbors too.
Our house had trees on fire, and I got those out while this one was catching, and would have loved to be able to help this house. This is my friend's house, and it's really tragic.
Firefighters struggling to crest the peak of Southern California's latest fire season.
1,532 fire personnel are assigned to the incident, and crews are working tirelessly around the clock to establish containment lines and defend structures.
The number of fires and acres burnt this year higher than the 5-year average, a growing challenge in a state where a changing climate means the wildfire season can feel endless.
Fire season is not a season, it's year-round in the state of California. Just think about it. Just, you need to make the statement. It's obvious to all of us, but we're in the middle of December, and yet we're experiencing yet another wildfire in Southern California.
The situation for evacuees made even more difficult with the holidays approaching, but residents in the area could get an early Christmas gift. Cool, moist weather is expected in the area tomorrow. Aaron Collins, CBC News, Calgary.
The premiers of Quebec and Newfoundland and Labrador are expected to announce on Thursday what they're calling a historic partnership agreement. The deal is expected to address the Churchill Falls hydroelectric plant. While situated in Labrador, it provides electricity to Quebec at well below market value. And tomorrow, it's expected the premiers will confirm they've renegotiated and extended their agreement to make it more balanced. Well, CBC News has learned Ottawa is expanding its gun buyback program.
All the buyback is looking to do is to cost taxpayers a bunch of money.
How the move could impact the price tag. Plus, he dazzled audiences for decades. The life of a beloved entertainer and mentalist. And a classic game that fits in the palm of your hand.
It is a tiny replica of the original Pong machine.
We'll show you the mini creation that could break a world record. We're back in 2 minutes.
Saudi Arabia. Mabruk. Mabruk. To our friends.
Well, Saudi Arabia has been confirmed as the host nation of the 2034 FIFA World Cup. While activists have raised concerns over the country's human rights record, it was the only bidder, and so it was officially approved during a virtual meeting in Zurich. Also announced, Morocco, Portugal, and Spain have won their joint bid to host the 2030 tournament. Well, CBC News has learned the federal government has closed a major loophole in its gun buyback program. As Jonathan Gatehouse explains, parts that could be used to make homemade guns will now be included.
Yeah, so if you look at this wall here,
this room in Wes Winkle's gun shop has become a sort of museum. Stacks of assault weapons still in their boxes, collecting dust. Paid inventory banned from sale for almost 5 years. But even as the federal government prepares to finally start buying back those guns, there's a new development: the quiet addition of assault weapon parts to the program.
Kind of joke called the Mr. Potato Head of guns because there's so many plug-and-play parts that are involved in it. So if you don't encompass all the parts, really there's no public safety enhancement that you could ever argue.
To restrict access to the very weapons used to commit these horrible crimes.
At a news conference about the buyback plans last Thursday, parts were never mentioned. Now, CBC News has learned the government has since quietly updated its website with a list of components it will be paying for, including bolts, magazines, sights, and grips, along with a wide assortment of barrels.
I think the cost of the program is going to go up dramatically with the inclusion of parts, but also trying to catalog and get these firearms destroyed. I do expect the administration to be quite expensive.
Back in 2021, the Parliamentary Budget Officer estimated the cost of the buyback at $756 million plus administration, a figure that was already sure to rise as the list of banned weapons has grown. And that estimate never included parts. Gage Hobrick has been tracking the assault weapons ban for the Canadian Taxpayers Federation.
You talk to any firearm owner, they'll probably have just as many firearms accessories as they do have firearms, especially for some of these really expensive guns that are going to be on this buyback list. So all it's going to do is add very much increased cost to taxpayers.
Just how much remains to be seen. Last week, public safety officials said they're still working out the new price tag. A CBC News request to interview Public Safety Minister Dominic LeBlanc about the changes was declined. But even as the expanded buyback finally gets underway, its future is in doubt. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre has vowed to cancel what he calls a gun grab if his party wins the next election. Jonathan Gatehouse, CBC News, Toronto.
Celebrations in the streets of Syria after the collapse of the Assad regime. How things could play out in this new political landscape. Plus,
they will kill me, they will kill my daughter.
They came to Canada in search of safety, but some activists here are still facing serious foreign threats. The National breaks down the story shaping our world. Next. The sale of bankrupted conspiracy theorist Alex Jones' website is on hold. Parody news site The Onion announced it had won the bid for Inforwars last month, but now a U.S. judge has ruled that the court-appointed trustee who ran the bankruptcy auction made procedural mistakes. Jones was forced to sell Inforwars after defaming the families of victims in the Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting. He celebrated today's ruling. Well, the man known as the Amazing Kreskin, a mentalist who dazzled audiences for decades, has died. Magda Gebrselassie shows us why he was so popular and how he inspired the next generation.
In the prime of his career, the man known as the Amazing Kreskin mystified audiences, entertained fans of all ages, and became the model for generations of future mentalists.
There you are, ladies and gentlemen, the very card you followed. 4 of diamonds.
George Kresge Jr.'s interest in appearing to read people's minds was sparked at the age of 9, followed by years spent honing his craft, using psychology and body language to read people's thoughts.
It's the unconscious, really, that's 90% of our thinking, and that's what I tap into.
More suggestible in groups.
In the 70s, he lit up TV screens with shows like The Amazing World of Kreskin. Shot in Canada, it also played in the U.S.
I still have my Kreskin board game.
Fellow mentalist and magician Daniel Paulin grew up watching Kreskin.
I can't read your mind, but I'm going to make you think that I can. And I don't think there was a better person, a better master at the ESP and mind reading than Kreskin.
His talent was a big draw for late-night talk shows. The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson had him on nearly 90 times. He popped up on David Letterman's show, too.
Talk show hosts love guests who come to entertain. It's like a night off for them. And so Kreskin was the perfect guest because he had his act and people were amazed.
Comedians like Jim Carrey did impersonations of the mentalist.
It just would grow into total manic, insane energy. And it used to crack people up.
The social media post announcing the entertainer's death stated performing for all of you brought immense joy to his life, and it was something he deeply cherished. The Amazing Kreskin was 89 years old.
Goodbye, everybody.
Magda Gebrselassie, CBC News, Toronto.
Now it's time to dig deeper into the stories shaping our world. Living in fear in the place they sought safety, activists find themselves targeted by the very countries they fled.
I received lots of threats. I'm very scared.
Foreign intimidation. But first. Jubilant Syrians topple statues of their deposed leader. It's reminiscent of other fallen dictatorships like Saddam Hussein in Iraq or Libya's Muammar Gaddafi. But the what next in those countries has been rough and violent. So what's the what next in Syria? Here to break down what happens next for Syria, what it means for the globe, is CBC correspondent Chris Brown in London and Greg Carlstrom, Middle East correspondent for The Economist in Dubai. So Chris, let's start with you. Who is in charge in Syria right now?
Well, there is a power vacuum, and it appears to be in the process of being filled by a transitional government headed by a man named Mohammed al-Bashir, appointed by the Hayat Tahrir al-Salam, the rebels that helped drive al-Assad from power. Now, like many other members of HTS, al-Bashir did not come from an al-Qaeda background. He was an engineer who worked for a Syrian gas company before he ran the opposition government up in Idlib province. That government had different ministries, it collected customs duties, even conducted some international relations with countries like Turkey. So there is some experience there, and he's been meeting with former Assad cabinet ministers, which could be interpreted as a sign of stability. But remember, Adrian, Syria is broke, it's divided, and it's dealing now with an influx, rather, of people returning from places like Turkey. So while people are patient, there are enormous challenges, and it remains to be seen whether these one-time Islamic radicals really have become moderates.
I think it's clear that the road ahead isn't exactly smooth. There's so many factions on the ground. I was in Raqqa, Syria, right after ISIS was pushed out. It was pretty clear then that ISIS wasn't gone for good. They're still there, possibly growing. So my gut is, yeah, there's trouble ahead, but something else is going on that's a concern. Every single day we hear about more and more airstrikes. So Greg, what is happening there?
There have been at least 3 foreign countries carrying out airstrikes in Syria over the past few days. In the north of Syria, you've had Turkey, which has been carrying out strikes on areas held by a Kurdish militia in northern Syria. They've been doing that in conjunction with a group called the Syrian National Army, which is a Turkish proxy force in Syria. In the southeast of Syria, you've had American airstrikes on Islamic State camps. These are in areas that used to be, where the airspace used to be controlled by Russia, and so America wasn't able to strike at these targets until the past few days, where, of course, the Assad regime has fallen, Russia has pulled back. That has left space for America to carry out those strikes on Islamic State. And then in the southwest of Syria, you've had Israel, which has carried out hundreds of airstrikes over the past few days, some of them on military installations that are affiliated with Syria's chemical weapons program, but some of them on conventional military targets. The Israeli army saying it struck at ballistic missiles in Syria, Syrian aircraft, helicopters, even naval ships in the port of Tartus, some of which are decades old, but the Israeli army is striking them nonetheless.
Adrian, let me just pick up on what Greg was saying there about Israel's actions, because they've come under a lot of scrutiny. Its tanks and its troops have also taken over. Opponents would call it an invasion. They would say they've invaded a demilitarized zone in the Golan Heights and even moved into small areas of Syria proper, effectively and unilaterally redrawing an international border. Now, all of this has been cast, I think, by Israel as self-defense, but we're hearing from UN officials, Arab states, and now even some in Europe that these moves are not legal, and they're also incredibly destabilizing as Syria tries to hit the reset. So Israel seems to be creating buffer zones. It has done this before in other territories surrounding it. Of course, the big fear about creating a buffer zone is how long you're going to stay and whether, in fact, it is as temporary as what Israel is saying it is.
Or if it's temporary, that lasts for a really long time. Greg, we've caught you as you're working right now on the cover story for The Economist this week. It's about Syria and the impact this is having beyond its borders. It seems like some countries will be winners in this and some will be losers. Can you break it down?
I think if there is a big winner in this so far, it seems to be Turkey, which provided support for HTS, for other rebel groups in the north over the past few years. And so the Turkish government feels that whoever ends up taking power in Damascus going forward, they're likely to be sympathetic to Turkey. Turkey will have a friendly government running Syria. And so Recep Tayyip Erdogan, the Turkish president, I think looking to pursue two priorities right now. One of them has to do with refugees. There are 3 million Syrian refugees in Turkey. They've become a big domestic political issue in Turkey, and the Erdogan government would like at least some of them to go back home. So there's a hope that if a better government, takes power in Syria, a better government than the Assad regime, that might allow some refugees to go back. The other issue for Turkey has to do with these Kurdish militias in the northeast of Syria. Turkey considers them to be terrorist groups because of their links to the PKK, the separatist Kurdish organization in Turkey. And so the Turkish government for years has been trying to push these groups away from the border in Syria. And they think now, with the regime gone, with Russia diminished in Syria, they may have an opportunity to carry out a bigger military offensive in the northeast and push back these Kurdish militias. The biggest loser, I think, is Iran. Russia has also suffered a blow to its prestige in Syria, but I think Iran has lost the most. They have watched over the past year, obviously, as one proxy after another has fallen. First, Hamas in Gaza, battered by this year-long war with Israel, then Hezbollah in Lebanon. Now they've lost the Assad regime in Syria, which was a key ally of theirs for decades. And not only Syria itself was an ally, but it was a conduit through which Iran was able to send weapons to Hezbollah in Lebanon. They spoke of having almost a land bridge that went from Tehran to the Mediterranean. That bridge has been cut now, and Iran is going to see its influence in the Levant, I think, greatly diminished in the years to come.
And so, Chris, Greg just mentioned Russia there in sort of the loser camp of this. You saw firsthand Russia's involvement in Syria. They seemed very boastful. I mean, you were embedded with them for a time. But right now, they definitely are in that loser pile.
Well, for Russia, projecting its great power status in the Middle East and Africa has always been a key aspect of its identity. And it's not just a Vladimir Putin thing. I think many Russians genuinely feel this is part of their identity, too. They did take us out on a Russian frigate at one point off Tartus a couple of years back. They brought up a submarine alongside and fired off a whole bunch of cruise missiles at ISIS targets in Syria. And I remember the general saying, "See and feel our power." But now Russia's power is greatly diminished. Putin has essentially abandoned his ally, even though he did offer him sanctuary. But I think they're still in the game. It's not a foregone conclusion. They're going to lose everything. We've not seen a major evacuation of people and assets yet from the air and naval bases that Russia has in Syria. So that does appear to be up for negotiation with the new rulers in Damascus.
So, Greg, we have just about 20 seconds left for you here. I want to talk about all the outside powers that have been all over Syria in one form or another for years. But now, I mean, what do you see Europe and North America in particular doing in Syria now?
I don't think they know yet. I think they were taken by surprise by Assad's quick ouster. I think they have an opportunity here to use money as leverage. There's a huge need for reconstruction aid in Syria. It'll cost at least $200 billion to rebuild the country. Western governments could offer to contribute money as long as the new Syrian government respects human rights, respects minorities, allows for democratic elections. I don't know if that's going to happen with Donald Trump coming to power in the United States and with European governments committed to contributing tens of billions of dollars to Ukraine already, but they do have an opportunity to pursue that sort of policy.
All right, Greg Karlstrom, Chris Brown, thank you, gentlemen. Still ahead, they came to Canada in search of safety.
I received lots of threats. I'm very scared.
We hear from activists still targeted by their former governments. They came to Canada to be free, yet they find themselves forced into the shadows just to stay safe.
They will kill me. They will kill my daughter.
Under threat, they say, from agents of their former countries trying to silence them.
It feels like everything we do are being watched.
They are targets of foreign intimidation. I spoke to some living right here in Canada who say they're still being terrorized by the regimes from which they fled.
An alleged Iranian-backed plot to assassinate former Canadian Justice Minister Irwin
The
Cotler.
RCMP told Cotler last month of an Iranian...
When news broke that Canada's former Justice Minister was the target of an assassination plot by Iran,
I was under imminent and lethal threat.
Irwin Cotler made it clear he's not alone and he's worried.
The targeting of dissidents and journalists and human rights defenders.
He's worried about people who came here to be safe, only to be suddenly stalked by the repressive regimes they left behind.
Do you think now that you're safe in Canada?
I feel sometimes when, a car behind us, I feel I'm not safe.
It feels like everything we do are being watched.
Turns out the worry is building.
How can we coordinate between like-minded countries to deal with this?
A parliamentary committee on the terrifyingly real phenomenon known as transnational repression has been hearing tales of people feeling increasingly threatened and powerless to do anything about it.
If you could help us define transnational repression.
Just as curious about how to handle this, it seems, the Canadian government.
What more can be done to ensure the safety of women political activists and human rights defenders?
The subcommittee will meet again in the new year, but it's already clear intimidation is increasing in Canada, and women are a particular target.
I receive lots of threats. I'm very scared.
This woman certainly is.
What kind of threats?
They will kill me. They will kill my daughter.
They knew you had a daughter.
al-Jawlani, in Canada now after taking an enormous risk in Iran. The girls, plural, of Revolution Street are all over social media. Back in 2018, we did a story about the women known as the Girls of Revolution Street.
4 girls did this.
Were you one of the 4?
Yeah, I was the third.
Single displays of defiance. Young Iranian women who stood on utility boxes and boldly took off their hijabs. Precisely what al-Jawlani did.
This is you?
Yeah, this is me.
One by one, the women were arrested, their families pushed to say publicly they were mentally unwell. Jawlani's family refused, and at the first opportunity, she fled the country, eventually coming to Canada. She's got a good job, a daughter, a home, and now total terror, with the realization that those angry with her for defying the Iranian regime are coming after her here. Sometimes posting thousands of menacing comments on her social media accounts, letting her know they know who she is and where her family are.
I have lots of camera in my house. The police, they told me I have to say everything to my daughter's school, and I have to talk with my neighbors about my situation. It's very hard. You always be alone. You can't trust people. For example, the police of here told me, please don't hang out with Iranian people because of your safety.
Don't hang out with other Iranian people.
The loneliness of this a real pattern for those who've already been through so much. And it's not just a reality for women from Iran.
It feels like everything we do are being watched, and they kind of knit a net around us, and we're all in it, but there's no way we can get out from it.
This is a woman who asked us to call her Ching. She's also in Canada, also living in terror. The threat to her is so acute, we have to hide her identity. It's been a long time since she lived in China, but immediately after attending a rally in Canada protesting China's human rights record, China made itself known to her.
It was a few hours after the rally took place, and I got a message from my family member. They tell me that someone has quote-unquote visited or contacted them. I was really shocked to know that they acted so fast and they have precisely identified who I am. I was really paranoid for a few months. I started to untrust essentially people who speak the same language as me. Like, we're on the other side of the world, but they still have ways to watch us.
2 dissidents among many, now isolated and afraid. For those studying the threats from foreign actors on people supposedly safe in Canada, This is all sickening.
You can see where this leads. You start looking over your shoulder. You're afraid of diaspora networks that normally you should be comfortable and welcome because you're new to this country and you retreat. That is actually the most effective technique for an authoritarian abroad. Silence the opposition, make them afraid to use social media, and it's working.
So this is a Chinese Australian activist who was subjected to attacks.
It appears like a news broadcast, but it's just fake.
Ron Diebert and his team at the Citizen Lab have been tracking these experiences. Say with women in particular, threats become sexualized. Families back home are frequent targets. Both effective ways to get someone to stop talking.
Showing her consuming drugs or selling her body.
Planting the seeds of disinformation and doubt about the integrity of a dissident is getting incredibly dangerous.
This is like the classic narrative, you know.
Even Diebert's colleague, Noura al-Jazawi, knows the horror of that. She's a Syrian, once imprisoned by Bashar al-Assad's regime for standing against it. She fled to Canada, and she's been safe for a while, until out of the blue, not long ago, her immigration status was questioned.
I was invited to quote-unquote interview because there were some questions, security questions about me. I was invited to this interview. The location was the biggest prison for deportation.
Being asked to come to the facility that Nora mentioned was actually right next to Pearson Airport, which meant that it was possible she would have this interview and then be immediately deported.
And they said, bring your passport.
Bring your passport.
Deportation would have meant a death sentence for a political activist like her.
We were very frightened by
They
this.
wonder who was behind the attempt to portray her as a threat to Canada. Suspect either agents for Syria or its ally, Iran.
I mean, this is exactly what we're talking about. There needs to be better awareness among government officials of this risk.
Ottawa is listening, learning about this issue. Noura al-Jazawi, part of the team testifying at the hearings.
We need Canada to hold perpetrators accountable.
We start to question.
And saying at least hopes the message is sinking in.
Western democratic societies did not really offer activists the protection that they deserve as the whistleblowers.
The Foreign Interference Committee is set to release its final report in the new year on how to protect Canadian institutions from foreign governments intent on pushing their agendas. But when it comes to individuals being targeted, there's so much more to do, and so many people retreating into the shadows in the very place they thought they were safe. Now, it isn't just Canada dealing with this issue. In its most recent report, the Citizen Lab highlighted the stories of 85 women who've been targets of transnational repression across 24 countries. Well, up next, a college student in Ontario may have set a new record.
The thing is 100% hand programmed.
Kind of the fun-sized arcade machine in our moment. You are looking at what might just be the world's tiniest arcade machine, built by Victoria Corhonen, a student from Fanshawe College in London, Ontario. So they're still waiting on the verification, but in the meantime, this aspiring engineer will be playing Pong in the palm of her hand. And tonight, that's what makes our moment.
I created the world's smallest arcade machine. It is still pending Guinness's approval or disapproval, but it is a tiny replica of the original Pong machine. Pong, I originally thought it would be the easiest to program, but my goodness was I wrong. The artificial intelligence involved in the competing paddle was pretty difficult in getting the right speed for the paddles. Everything is 100% hand programmed. So I thought it would be easier, but it definitely was not. The design is 3D printed and connected to an Arduino microcontroller. It is a very small space to contain all the components, so it took a ton of designing and then redesigning over and over again until we were able to get everything to fit in the proper space. But I got it to work and it is fully functioning. So for years I've been doing electromechanical designing and building, and I knew that that's the field that I wanted to break the record in. I'm a big gamer too, so that was a big plus, and I got to work. It's just been so exciting.
This is amazing. I love Pong. She is amazing. And if you can believe this, If she's successful, this will be her second world record. When she was in high school, she and her classmates built the world's longest selfie stick. And guess who held that record before them? You won't guess. It was actor Ben Stiller. Who knew? From all of us at The National, thank you for being with us. You can watch anywhere, anytime on the free CBC News app and subscribe to The National's YouTube channel. I'm Adrienne Arsenault. Take care.